You are listening to the EleAMental podcast.
Shut up!
I'm so over keeping secrets. The sacred things that make me human. I know I'm what you're looking for. Oh no 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 no, nevermore. La la la. Call me a big mouth, big mouth, big mouth.
Welcome to my mind. My name is Al Nichols, and you're listening to the EleAMental podcast. This is entry number 111. I am looking at an eBay listing right now. There's about 35 some minutes left. I'm in an auction war for something that I'm pretty sure is actually the exact same thing that I sold. Not just the item itself, the actual one that I sold from a seller in California from the Los Angeles area. And actually looking at the photos of it, I'm pretty sure it's mine. What I'm looking at is a Hot Toys Batman Returns 1/6 scale figure. I had this for, since 2016. It actually replaced one that I sold. I had a Batman DX 08 and 09. So I had the Batman and the Joker that I got in Christmas in 2012. And those meant the world to me. And then I helped out a friend. I didn't have the money to help out a friend, so I sold something that was really important to me to help them out. I don't regret that. I just feel that I've made a lot of sacrifices in my life. Some may be necessary, others not. I don't know, more and more lately, even though I keep telling my brain, like, yeah, I know you're bitter and you're angry about that situation now, and for obvious reasons, but you made the choice to do that and no one forced you to do it. And, because I won't allow myself to make myself a victim in certain situations, because I didn't have any regret for doing it then, and I'm not going to have any regret for doing that now. But I did sell this one, which was a replacement of sorts. So in 2016, I bought this Batman Returns Hot Toys figure. It was really important to me because, well, if you've listened to me long enough, you know that Batman is just a really important character in my life, but specifically those Tim Burton movies. And more so, I think the Batman Returns, the look, the feel, his relationship with Catwoman. There's so many things in that film that just resonate with my life. Things that feel like are part of my DNA. So I had this toy, and it was beautiful, and it sat on a great little shelf. I made an Access Chemical sign to put behind him. But every time I looked at it, it wasn't just that I had like pride in owning this cool thing. It was a reminder in a way of who I was and who I wanted to be. It's not always certain in this world who you will be from day to day. You get challenged all the time. Things come into your life and things get hard. Things get difficult and you don't really know which way is up. You don't really know. I don't know. I mean, you can lose yourself. And I felt like when I first bought this, that's what was happening in my life, that I was losing myself. And it stood, this figure, this little 1/6 scale Michael Keaton in a Batman costume, the Batman suit rather, was a symbol of who I wanted to be and who I wanted to not only get back to, but kind of like a compass, right? A directional, almost like a spiritual direction. And this year, well, see, I used to have a lot of cool little collectibles. I used to have a lot of these figures. At one time, I probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of like 15 to 20. I had a really cool Batgirl statue that I sold this year. And I had a really cool Harley Quinn statue and Hot Toys, and I sold them this year. I had some cool Batman, like imposter Batmans and Suicide Squad characters. I sold all of them. This one I held on to. I held on to it for as long as I could, but when April rolled around and I ran out of money completely, and I didn't have family to turn to, and I found myself with my friend was never really talking to me. They had moved away, and I had never heard from them. And I would try to have a conversation. And so there was so many problems, right? I don't want to get into the specifics necessarily, and it wasn't that I was like trying to reach out for people for money, but it was like I didn't have anything. I didn't feel like I had support. I didn't feel like I had any kind of hope or promise that anything was going to get back to normal and that things were going to be okay. I was just in a really bad place. So selling this for the longest time was not an option. I almost starved myself for like a month eating packs of ramen, earlier this year, just because I was like, I'm going to get through this, but I'm not selling that. But then one day came and I was desperate, absolutely desperate. No money. Have been trying to sell a lot of other things that, if I could have sold them, and it was things that reasonably in any other time and any other economy and any other world would sell, but couldn't sell them. And I knew that if I wanted to sell something and make some money, this was my only option. Tried to reason it out, it's just a toy. And, I can get it back. I sold it. I sold it for a lot less than I really would care to admit. And I didn't feel good about selling it. And honestly, if I could have sold it and the money gone into something that were toward my future, maybe I would have felt a little bit better. But I don't really think that there's any. I think that this was a symbol. This was a symbol of me just completely losing myself, losing touch with reality. And I don't know, just giving up. This was me giving up. And I was holding on to it even tighter because, truthfully, I was very suicidal at the time. I mean, incredibly so. I went through a phase of 3 months. 3 months where I really feel like I was doing everything I could just to throw out my body. And not that I was like intentionally trying to commit suicide, but it was like I was just trying to destroy my body and just hope that I did enough damage that it was irreparable, right? And one day I just wouldn't want to wake up, or wouldn't wake up. And fortunately, all that failed. And where I am in my life right now is dramatically different. And being here in Orange County, I didn't think that I would be able to make the kind of growth and find the strength again to really be the person that I loved. But somehow I have, in the face of adversity, right? And not always feeling supported by my family. They generally support me, but it's a complicated relationship when you have people who have very strong religious beliefs and you have very strong opposing beliefs. But somehow we are still together and we are managing to work things out, which is a very powerful thing for me. And it's not something that I'll throw away. But my circumstances have changed. I am working again. I'm doing actually, even though, there's always a struggle, especially with my business. With Eluded, it's always like I'm trying to reach customers, and every time I do a post, it feels like no one really sees it, and it's frustrating because all I want is just to get my product out there, and not try to force it down people's throats, like buy my product. I want them to see it, because if they see it, they buy it. And the marketplace has changed a lot on Instagram, especially recently, in a very frustrating way. But in spite of all of that, I'm on a track doing very well right now. first time in a long time, I really do love myself again. I really admire me. I'm into me. I totally date me. I even feel good about my appearance again. I've been working. I mean, I'm not saying I've been working out or anything like that, but I've been actually a lot smarter with food. I gave up drinking, not as a like I'm going sober kind of thing, just as I really don't want to do this, and I'm just not going to do this for a long time. Because I'm not seeing, there's no benefit for me to drink. I feel sick every single time I drink. And I have to ask, am I really drinking to have a good time, or am I drinking to medicate? And if I'm medicating, which I was, why wouldn't I just go out and finally go see a doctor and actually get medicated properly with something that's not going to destroy my liver, something that's not going to destroy my brain? That's what I did. And it's another one of the reasons why I'm on a much better track right now than I have been in a long time. So I hadn't really planned to get involved with an eBay bidding war right now. In fact, my focus as of late for the last couple of months has been to rebuild myself financially, rebuild my businesses, rebuild my character, because I feel like even that is lacking. Rebuild my reputation and just rebuild every part of my life that I feel or that I see that has faltered and fallen apart, areas that I'm not strong. Rebuild relationships that I let languish, and that's going fantastic as well. Things are actually going very well for me. But I got a notification on eBay, and I forgot that I even set this reminder. I hadn't really looked at eBay in a long time. I don't really get a lot of notifications from them, so I hadn't really even thought to turn off notifications. But on my phone, I looked and it said a Hot Toys Batman Returns, whatever, is just went up for bidding or something like that, and clicked on the listing, and I was like, holy shit. Then I looked at it a little bit closer because, I have gone on eBay a few times, right? Like, probably a few months ago now, and looked to see if I could maybe replace it. Unfortunately, what I sold it for, it's worth a lot more. And that's kind of the problem. That's why you always try to buy these things when they first come out to the market, because here in the States, when Sideshow Collectibles stop selling them, then they're pretty much no longer available. And you have to go to the third-party market, right, or the resellers market and stuff like that, to find it. And when you do that, you're looking at, I'll give you an example, my Batman and Joker that I had from 2012 that was bought from Sideshow Collectibles. Those were originally probably $250 each, $250 US. Now, to just get one of those, it would probably cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of $900 to $1,000. You can get one in worse condition, maybe for $500 on a good day. I found a Joker with no box and missing stuff a few years back, and I did buy that, but I bought that one for like almost $500. Yeah, it's and honestly, it's like, if you're doing it for an investment or you just really love these things, like, God, I mean, it kind of makes me sick even thinking about spending that kind of money nowadays. But you know what? I saw this, and when I looked at it closer, I was looking at very specific details in the packaging, because they took photos of the boxes, and I realized, oh shit, I'm pretty confident, like 90% confident that this is mine. And maybe I'm wrong. That's always a possibility. That's why I left a little room there. But I was looking at certain particular parts that I remember so vividly. And I was like, I think this is mine. Now, I don't know if I'm going to win this. I mean, I do have a price limit. I can't go over a certain amount of money. I wouldn't feel good about it. I feel really, really gross about it. But I decided that this is important to me for some reason. Is it going to really restore anything in my life necessarily? Is it really going to make me stronger? No. There's more sentiment to this than anything else. But, in a year where I feel like, even though I'm gaining a lot, but I lost a lot too. I lost a really close relationship. I lost my home. I lost my car. The list is not one that I want to keep writing out and reminding myself of. It'd be nice to say, no, I didn't lose this. It just left my company for a little while. So we'll see. Let me check. I got 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And someone who has raised my bid in the last hour up for like $60. And there's always someone who likes to come in right at the end and jack it up and win the bidding. So we will see. This is not really the best time for me to be like spending this kind of money too, I've done really well lately. Just again, this is getting a little uncomfortable. But I feel like there's something important to this. I feel like, yeah, I'm not going to be happy parting with the money, but I will feel so good about having this back. And every time I look at it, just as it did before when I was able to look at it, it gives me a little inspiration, gives me a little bit of hope, reminds me of the things that are really important in my life. And if it does those things, then I think I would pay a lot more. Because, it is important sometimes to have tokens or mementos or things that are completely useless, right? I'm not going to get a lot of use out of this. Maybe he can pose with a few pins. I've done him, like that before, Maybe I really just put him on my desk and I just obsessively look at him for a really long time. But it's not like, it's going to be making me a lot of money or whatever. Sometimes you have to follow these maybe illogical. I don't necessarily think it's illogical. I'm just expensive. I think it's expensive. But it's important to me. So that is where I currently am at. Is just recalculating, looking at my life right now and looking to move on. So what I actually wanted to talk about when I first started recording here, just another reminder. In fact, it does connect in with what I'm talking about. It's the fact of being who you are, being who you want to be, expressing yourself the way that you want to. Recently, Harry Styles did a brilliant photo shoot, I believe with Vogue, where he wears various dresses throughout the shoot. And of course, it's made a lot of headlines, caught a lot of attention. And as you would think, it catches a lot of attention from some of the worst people too. Your Ben Shapiro's, your Candace Owens, your I don't know, the Jewish woman on YouTube who talks about modesty a lot. I don't know. A lot of people, right? A lot of people have a lot to say about men wearing dresses and don't wear skirts. We don't find that attractive. That's not masculine at all. A lot of like backwards. That's the nice way, too. Candace Owens, what was she saying about it? That she was saying it's an assault, a further assault from the left. Of course, it's always the left. We're always trying to assault people, but, assault on masculinity in this country and that other nations understand. The East understands, just a really weird fucking statement. The East understands the importance of masculinity. No culture has ever survived without the powerful dick energy. It's like, it's so fucking stupid and hilarious that people think that Harry Styles wearing a dress is some, I mean, it is important. It does open the mind to new ideas and fresh perspectives. But they're so afraid of that. They're so afraid of their, and Ben Shapiro, I mean, the fact that he's talking about this assault on masculinity. Jesus Christ. It's like, get over yourself, man. But it's it's an interesting place that we find ourselves culturally. Sorry, I was just adjusting my bid. I'm like, yeah, I'll pay more. I haven't had anyone come along and raise the bid quite yet. So I'm just like, I'm getting pretty close to the threshold that I set. So maybe I'll go ahead and adjust that. But anyway, yeah, it's anytime someone does something right, like this happened with Caitlyn Jenner, and when she came out. And unfortunately, my only issue with her, and as I've said this before, was that she kind of became the spokesmodel for the transgender community without really, and I'm not even accusing her of a role that she was trying to take that on, but she was coming from a much different place than the rest of us. I mean, none of us are that wealthy. None of us have that much attention, the ability. I mean, she pretty much powered through her hormones, her surgeries, her lifestyle change, everything in the blink of an eye, because money can do that, right? You're in a position of power and influence. Yeah, and I'm not, begrudging her that, she can do whatever she wants. It was just often statements would be said, obviously, and they would be, construed to everyone who is transgender. That's not something I like. Right? I don't want anyone to be speaking on my behalf. I want to speak on my own behalf. And also there are other people out there who, if they are going to speak for the community, they may have other things to say. I don't want but that's the problem, right? You really don't control that. You don't control the messaging. You don't control who speaks. It's like the media takes a person and all of a sudden, boom, that's that. So obviously, when this situation first arose, I started having little concerns about that. See, I am a transgender person. However, I have explained this before. My pathway is not to full femininity or full masculinity, obviously. My pathway leans toward femininity with a little masculinity here and there. I am gender fluid. I am essentially non-binary. And I don't, I even try to stay away from a lot of these terms a lot of times. You get pigeonholed to them. And actually, I've made the mistake before of thinking that I understood what something meant and then rushing oh, well, that's my label. And I'd go out there and I'll tell everybody, hey, this is my label, everybody. And then I would later on come to find that, oh, it's a lot more complicated. Wait, you mean I don't totally understand myself yet and what I'm going through? Oh my God. The only thing I can tell anyone for certain is I experienced a lot of gender dysphoria when not only when I was a child, less as an adult, but only because of what I've done to change my life and accept myself. But constant mental anguish when I was younger. Again, a story that I've shared many times and probably will again here in the future. Maybe it's time to share that once more. But as I stand, I just embrace whatever fashion that I want to, right? And in the last few months, as I just kind of confronted my family to a degree, and not like a fight or anything like that, it was more confronting a mindset that they have, right? A family way of doing things. So something that generationally you can see in our family, which is don't rock the boat. If you believe something, if you do something, if you like something that is controversial, just, you can do whatever you want, but don't throw it up in the family's face. So I carried around a long time this idea that what I did, how I lived, was essentially that, throwing it up in the family's face. My solution to that was to avoid any kind of conflict or any kind of contact. I didn't really see my mom. Really don't have love my uncle, just don't really see him very much. If, like maybe once every few years. Don't really talk to him very much. And it's not because I hate these people or anything like that, but it has been very uncomfortable for me to open up and talk to them about these certain things, and where it's not been weird. I mean, truth is that, yeah, I want to open up. Yeah, I want to talk about this. Yeah, I don't want to, it's not, because there is a part where you start to feel like, am I just keeping secrets? Am I doing this because I'm trying not to offend? But the shitty part about that is that, well, I am who I am. That is not changing. If it could have changed, it would have, right? If I could have changed myself to not be this way a long time ago, all right, the person who hated me, who was afraid of what I eventually became, right, they would have tried to kill it because they didn't understand. And they thought, that normality and acceptance were the path, right? I don't feel that way at all. I don't want to change a thing about me. I definitely don't want to go back to that person either, who used to think of myself as some sort of pariah or a pervert or whatever goddamn nonsense was in my head from years and years and years of indoctrination and just prejudice and bigotry. I don't want any of that in my life. So I had to tell my family, I understand that what I do, how I act, what I say, I understand that these are contrary to the way that I was raised, to what you think I should do with my life, how I should live my life. But these are my choices. This is who I am. And I might not parade around here in a ball gown. I might not walk around looking like a drag queen necessarily. But if I feel that, I feel like it's a tights day, I feel like it's a skirt day, then that's what I'm going to do. I did this thing when I first moved in down here, where it was the summer too. So it was kind of justified. It was just super hot. So I was wearing shorts and t-shirts a lot. And I hated it. I really do. That's not me, right? It hasn't been me for a very long time. I like dressing up. I like digging the vibe, and I couldn't do that for a little while, or at least that's what I had told myself. Like, well, you're down here and this is going to be temporary. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't temporary. I've been here for a little while. I'm going to be here for a little bit longer, especially with the car situation. Yeah. I've really got to figure out a few things. But, maybe it's not a good idea to be spending for it. But I feel like, or I felt like that, if I'm going to be here, I just need to confront this. It's scary, sure, I am staying with my aunt. This is her place. But there's a difference between being respectful and trying to not create problems or controversy. And then there's a limit where you just have to be true to you. You have to be real. And when I was invited in, it wasn't like I was told you can't do this here or anything like that. There was no communication such as that. Again, this is why I said this is a family thing. We tend to do this. We tend to avoid controversy amongst one another. Excuse me, because we just don't want to offend, right? Though we are fucking passive aggressive as shit. That's a real thing. And then obviously when animosities grow so much because everyone's trying not to rock the boat, then we explode in anger. real healthy behaviors. Again, just behaviors I can see how they've so much fucked up my life in so many ways, right? Where it's definitely been the cause of a lot of bad decisions, a lot of stupid choices on my part. Yeah, just because I went along with it, right? I went along with it. I said, this is just what we do. Well, it's not what I do. So I confronted it head on. And, honestly, they didn't really freak out. I mean, they're probably concerned about what they were going to end up seeing, but in the weeks that have come, they've seen what I'm going to do. They've seen the extent of it. Oh. Forgot to turn off the alarm. Yeah, because the bidding is coming to a close here. So anyway, this is such a weird episode of the podcast. Apologies, everyone. But I had the talk, and so since then I have been more open to wear makeup when I want, wear the clothes that I want, break out some tights and a skirt every once in a while when I want. No one really has said anything, right? No one's really, and it's not like that's approval, but hell, I'll take it. I'll take it. I will take silent submission, because it's like, I don't need them to love what I wear, how I dress. I just need them to not come after me for choosing to live and be the way that I want. And within that, of course, like I said, I do observe some limits, right? If I did something real wild, that's going to blow their minds, okay? And I don't really want to do that because, one, that's not going to make me feel great, and also I want them to start getting used to this more. I want them, because I think it's a very important step. They need to see it. They need to be eased into it. And if I can do that, I think that'll be a very important step. It's not necessarily something that I have to do, but it is something that I choose to do. And so seeing someone like Harry Styles go out there and wear these beautiful dresses, we'll see. I'm happy that this is happening. I'm happy that Fox News and all these other places are wanting to dive into this subject and really show the hypocrisy in a lot of the things that they say. They talk a lot about freedoms, and they talk, a lot about, people having, the liberty to choose, especially when it comes to like things like taxes. Like, we don't want taxes on us because everyone should have the ability. But then they get real particular and they get real involved in the way that people do things. Right. So they'll shame people in schools for like not allowing kids to wear like political shirts or MAGA hats into the classroom. And then they go after someone like Harry Styles and they try to engender the issue as this is an assault from the left on trying to emasculate all the men in our country and our society. And, sure, plenty of people will run with that argument for a while. They would anyway, right? But it is a conversation that is happening. And there are a lot of young men out there, right? There are a lot of young children even, right? Who are all over the spectrum when it comes to the way they see themselves gender-wise or sexually. And they're seeing that and they're like, oh shit. See, this is something I've said is really important in our society. Someone recently asked a question on Facebook. It was a general question put out there, like, do you feel accepted by society? And I was like, well, that's kind of a complicated question. Progressive society? Yeah, I feel accepted. Not desired. So accepted as in they're not coming after me. They're not telling me that what I'm doing, how I'm dressing is wrong. But there's no idolization. And my reference to that would be like your Bowie and your Prince types. These guys who would go out there and they dress any way they wanted. And no one said that, probably plenty of people were saying shit, but it didn't matter. All right. Women, men, everyone in between desired them. Okay. They were sexy, and there didn't have to be this like manly or feminine label put on all of this shit. It was just, they did whatever the hell they wanted. They embraced the different, the odd, the bizarre. And in some ways, by doing that, they normalized it. But then, time went on, the 90s rolled through, and a lot of that got rolled back, right? Just like how we saw in the Trump administration, how a lot of legal protections and everything got rolled back. In that time, during the 90s, it was kind of like it was an adverse reaction to the 80s. And sure, the 80s weren't a perfect time, right? We look back on it now with much more fond memories. But, there were a lot of ridiculous things that came out of that era for sure. Though I prefer that. I prefer the ridiculousness. I'll take all of that, because then the things that we got out of it were magical and wonderful and so amazing and so great. And I would love to see this era become a new wave of that, a new renaissance for identity and self-expression. And so if it starts in a magazine with Harry Styles, who talks about the fact that, the dress, these things don't necessarily, it's not a testament of how he sees himself gender-wise. It's a matter of expression. It's a matter of, he just likes the idea of, oh, I love fashion, and it's like, whether it's over here in the men's department or in the women's department, these arbitrary labels that we give things because somehow there's an invisible line that if you have a penis or vagina, you're supposed to gravitate to one or the other. And so he's just, open. He said, no, I mean, it wasn't really even like a thought, like there's some sort of statement in this, except that it's cool just to do whatever you want and play. He brought fashion into the sense of like, I do this because it's fun. And you know what? He's right. One of the biggest reasons I love doing photo shoots, and I really miss it, it's been a long time since I've got to do one, which I'm changing that here coming soon, is because it is a lot of fun. It is something that you get to do, and you get to embrace something different and cool, and you get to rock a vibe that's not your typical day-to-day wear. Okay, everybody, hold on real fast. I just won the auction. Oh my God, I just won the auction. I could cry. I'm really, really happy about that. I thought I was going to like kind of vomit because of the money. No, I feel really good about that. I will soon, after I pay, I will soon be the proud owner of what I believe to be my actual Hot Toys Batman Returns. Anyway, oh my God, that's just so cool. I'm really happy about that. So anyway, what I was saying about Harry Styles, that is the point. It is fun. It is liberating. It is liberating to embrace the taboos, right? Because I mean, what you're talking about is not anything that hurts anyone. Maybe it hurts the ideas of what a man is. Ooh, yeah, because that's so precious. We can't touch that. Maybe it definitely offends religious people often. Not everyone too. I know I say these terms out generally, but I want to be very specific. I'm talking about the ones who always go out of their way to take offense to everything because they think everything is an assault on their beliefs and on their culture and on their lives, and it's not. Right? They believe that and they make it a reality. It's perceived, but it isn't real. And so I do love that we as a culture, I mean, this may not really go to fruition to anything else, but as of late, we've started to see various people just start wearing dresses in various feminine attire. Again, not a statement about their gender. They're doing exactly what I've encouraged people to do for a long time. You go back to the early years of this podcast, one of the things that I wanted people to do was just try it. I used to have people all the time messaging me about hosiery, right? Because I know a lot about hosiery then and now. And I would just say, because they would ask, like, how does it feel? There was a lot of guys, especially, who were like, how does it feel? And what is it exactly? And whether they have like a fetish for it, which is, I mean, no judgment. Absolutely not. I kind of do too, actually. Not as much as I used to, but I do. or just people who just were curious, right? But too afraid to ever ask that question in fear that it would say something about them if they did. Well, they weren't afraid to ask me, especially when it was anonymous. And I would always tell them, you can wonder about it for as long as you want, but nothing, I can explain it to you too, but nothing really replaces the experience. Because what you may walk away with is like, wow, this really isn't what I thought it was going to be. Yeah, okay. I can tell you I've had that experience more than not. Or you can be like, wow, I never want to wear a pair of pants again. Yeah, and I've experienced that too. I never fucking wear pants, man. It's leggings and it's skirts and it's tights. I mean, Jesus, dresses, anything I can possibly wear, right? I will wear anything other than pants. I hate jeans. I hate slacks. Even in women's wear, I'm not a pants person. I just don't like pants. Though I think, at least with women's trousers and pants and slacks and various garments, I think they have an interesting shape and an interesting look to them, far more so than any of the shit that I've ever been forced to wear as a man in my life. But again, why not try it? What is the problem with experimenting? And it really does boil down to, well, what will people think? I don't think whatever the fuck they want. Truthfully, a person who rushes to judgment and would rather sum you up, right, by an experience or something you were curious about, who would rather then take these little small things and try to make statements larger about you than actually are there, then fuck them. But also, this is normal. People do this shit all the time. You say or do anything and people just have suspicions. And the big reason of that is because we have lived in such a closed off, repressed society for so long. I mean, even the idea that people still like, he doesn't really seem to talk to girls very much. Could he be gay? It's like, why are we still acting like this? Who the fuck cares? Why is there an assumption that if you have a child, especially, that they're going to be attracted to one gender? You don't know that yet. We don't know anymore. It doesn't matter, It's like your kid is going to tell you at some point. Well, your kid will tell you if you are open and loving and accepting, and your child knows that there's nothing that they could say or do when it comes to whether they're gay, straight, bisexual, whether they're transgender or not, whether they have various things going on in their life. If they know that they can come to you and talk to you, that's what's important. Is not like, well, you don't need to figure anything out. You just need to create an environment where your kid knows that they're loved. That's it. Your kid just needs to know you love them. I mean, one thing that I look back on throughout my childhood, that was always a question. Because I knew they loved me for what they thought I was, but I wasn't sure they would love me for who I knew I was. That's a real awful feeling. I don't think anyone should ever go through that. I was lucky that my family still loves me. And they're confused the fuck out, by me. But they do still love me. And that is how you move forward. In fact, you don't even have to understand it. You might be in confusion about it. You might have years and years of ideas and beliefs and everything else. That doesn't really matter. You love your kid anyway, and that's what will get you through. That's it. And you'll learn along the way. You create a safe place for your kid to open up and talk about what they're feeling, what they're going through. You will figure it out along the way. It's what I've always told parents who've contacted me, because I've had a number of parents contact me because they found out their kid was cross-dressing in private, or their kid came out to them and they didn't know how to handle it. And I'm like, well, did you yell at them or something? Because that would be the wrong way to handle it. If you did, just apologize. Let them know that you were, what you were feeling in that moment, but let them know now that they're accepted, that you love them, and that you don't even have to say like I said, you don't have to say you understand it. You can say that, but I want to understand. But I will always love you. That's all it needs to be. We don't need to understand everything. We don't need to, anyway, I think I'm getting off track here, but seeing those images, I just kind of, and really, I didn't really think like, oh, that's very, well, not that it would be a derogatory thing for him to have a feminine vibe in those photos, but I also thought he had a very strong masculine vibe. I actually thought that he had and like a lot of these terms get a little iffy because I don't really get into that very much. I mean, I think people exhibit both masculine and feminine vibes to various degrees. I would say I'm predominantly feminine in the vibe that I give off in a lot of things, but I am also very masculine in other ways as well. And I think that's a normal part of life, right? That we engender both of these different qualities in various times and moments and in different ways. That's all I saw with Harry Styles. I just saw someone who was like, wow, it's kind of cool. I love it. I mean, some of the pics, some of the pics and the clothing, not the photos themselves, it was like, maybe not that, like I think there was one where I was kind of like, but that was personal taste. That had nothing to do with Harry Styles. But I was like, yeah, I love this. I dig this. I'm telling you right now, I've said this a lot in the past too. It's been an awakening process for me as I dig deeper into understanding my own gender. And then also it does connect to my sexuality as well. The more I've become open with myself and understood who I am and how complicated I am, I also start to understand that the things that I am sexually attracted to is also grown and changed as well. I used to say that, yes, I am transgender, but I am attracted to women. And then those definitions have evolved over time, obviously. And then my most recent thing is I'm into femininity. So, yes, I mean, I'm into femininity, period. For example, I have seen many women who are who are more masculine in certain areas, right? It's not that I'm not attracted to them, but, I guess it is more of a statement of like, yeah, I actually really am attracted to a lot of feminine qualities, though I'm also very attracted to some masculine qualities in women. There's like a combination of things that I like. And I don't know, because I definitely like powerful women, right? That's something I'm just very, very attracted to, right? Powerful, smart women. Tall. That's not a deal breaker, but it's like, yeah, I have a type. And instead of like trying to reinforce that in my own mind, and because I think a long time ago when I first started coming out, so many people assumed that, oh, you're into guys too. Like they would connect those two things, and they still do. And I was very threatened by it. And so, I feel like I would go out of my way to say, no, I'm attracted to women, right? Like, no, I'm attracted to women. But now I've kind of like gotten away from that. Like, I don't really care because to be honest, there are plenty of men who come along sometimes who just are like, they're rocking some very strong feminine qualities, or they wear makeup once. And I'm like, yeah, I'm totally into that. So instead of like being so dead set on some definition, right? I'm like, how miserable would my life be if I had to follow all of these arbitrary rules that I've set? Because again, the same reasons that I've talked about earlier about clothing, that I'm afraid of how it may appear, or I'm afraid of what that would say about me. What would it say about me? That, like, oh, well, I guess I like more than I thought. Okay. It's like, someone who goes along there, I don't like fish. And then one day they have a really delicious salmon. Like, I guess I like fish. Things are not always straightforward. They don't need to be. And life is a lot more fun if you choose to have fun. One of the miserable parts about being an adult, well, when you're a kid, you get to play with toys, you get to play video games all the time, you get to run around and play with other people, and you have recess, you don't have bills. So many wonderful things about being a kid. As you get older, technically, I guess you could do all those things. They're just not as appealing, obviously. We have other interests. But there isn't a lot of times just to have kind of like a wonder, like a childlike wonder in something that you do. I found that when I started to dress up. I remember one particular time. Actually, it's still one of my favorite shoots. I kind of did a Rocky Horror inspired look. It was a red leopard kimono dress that I had. That's what it was called. I don't know if it was really a kimono dress. It was off the shoulders, right? It had a really deep neckline into the breast. And I had this really massive black and black ombre to silver wig. I had this gorgeous like black silk head scarf. And I remember sitting there and I was looking at myself in the mirror as I was putting on stockings. It was the most erotic, most thrilling feeling that I've had in my life. And I had the best fucking time that I have ever had. It was one of the most therapeutic, just like I did not want that to end. Right? I wanted to go out and party. I just wanted that feeling to never stop. And it was like, once again, not just playing pretend, but like, this is me. I put the makeup together for this look. I'm a fucking diva, man. Such an amazing, wonderful feeling. And I have a thought now, like, wouldn't everyone love that? Right? Wouldn't everyone love that? If you knew that no one was going to judge you, hell, that, if you didn't want anyone to know about the experience, that no one ever would. If you could just push aside the shame and the weird social stigma for everything, how many guys out there they would love to have an experience like that? Maybe it's not women's clothing even, but for a man to have that experience, often they get written off. Oh, they're gay. Great. I'm so glad that you see the intricacies of a person just wanting to enjoy life. Art for the sake of art. There's just so many things that we deprive ourselves from because we are so afraid to just open up and say, I would actually really enjoy that. How many people don't go out and do something simple like get a massage because they're afraid, well, I don't know. Having some stranger rub my body. Maybe you have other reasons, but it's just like, is your limitations because, well, you need to be naked on a table and let someone care for you? Because I know a lot of people, the reasons that they don't go do that is for that very reason. It's not cost, and it's not, because even they're necessarily ashamed of their body or anything like that. It has to do with the fact that they can't push themselves to go do that. They feel that that says something about them. Oh, I'm going to the spa. That's not what men do. Or women who are afraid to sometimes even invest themselves into hobbies that are considered to be masculine or men's hobby. Like, what the fuck? Like men who go to a barber shop and get a nice fresh shave, there's a very refreshing feeling to that. There's a lot of people who are afraid to do that, to ever pamper themselves in any way. To ever, like I said, just enjoy life and have fucking fun. So here's something that I haven't done in a while. I'm going to challenge you in your own personal life, if you'll accept the challenge, I want you to do something that you've always just desperately wanted to do. And I want you to put aside all the inhibitions, all the thoughts of shame, everything that you possibly throw out there as reasons to not do something. Just go do it. I'm not asking you to do something illegal. I'm not asking, or no, definitely not asking you to do anything like that. Nothing morally questionable, because this is not what this is. I'm just asking you to do something for yourself where you'll have a lot of fun. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you try something and you don't. But how would you ever know that if you never tried it? So whatever you need to do to make yourself feel more comfortable, do it. If you need to plan it out, do that. I mean, look, I'm in a situation right now where if I want to do a real photo shoot, it's kind of hard. Not a lot of room in my aunt's cramped apartment and not really privacy. And not that I wouldn't, be afraid if they were to see me in any particular way, but I need privacy to be able to think and concentrate and not just have, one issue I always have is just people staring at me, which is what my family constantly fucking does, is just stare at me, which is really unnerving. And it's, I have no idea why. Just why are you just standing there staring at me? Stop doing that. Are you asking me a question? Just something that just is a personal, pet peeve. But for me, it's I'm not stopped. You know what I do? Go out and get a hotel room, or go find a location or rent something. And it just means that I have to go through more steps to set something up. That's it. So with that said, that's exactly what I'm planning on doing in December. I'm getting away for just a few days and, borrowing my aunt's car to travel. And, I'm just getting away so that I can do this for myself. This is my Christmas present. I mean, the Batman figure that I just bought, obviously, but also I just want to feel good and have fun, play with makeup, put on some expensive dresses and clothing and do my hair and makeup. I want to do that because I know I feel so good. I always do. I feel so good. Snap a few photos. I take those more for my benefit than I think anyone else's, because I love to look back and think, oh my God, yeah. A reminder oh, I forgot I could do that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. So anyway, that is where I'm going to leave you. I feel what I said about this is way fucking better than any of these. Your Republican pundits, your Fox News correspondents, your angry Twitter, your Ben Shapiro's. Oh God. Well, who else? Who else probably said something about this that I'm not even aware of? Oh, what's his face? The real racist guy on YouTube. It's I have the benefit of being able to forget a lot of these people's names, unfortunately. Steve Crowder. That's who I was thinking of. I'm sure he has had something to say about all of this as well. Fuck those people, right? Because really, what are they saying? There's no consequences to any things that they say. They just sound fucking stupid. That's it. They sound fucking stupid. Nothing credible brought to the argument. No real sound points. And honestly, if you believe that there's some sort of attack on masculinity, ugh, God, just it's the same message that you fuckers use for things like the war on Christmas. Freaking out about Starbucks cups. Oh, they're just red. Well, what is that? That's Antichrist. I don't know why I said that's Antichrist, but I think I probably heard someone say that. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you so much for joining me here on this episode, and I'm going to leave you like I always do. Stay extraordinary and escape the ordinary. Goodbye, everybody.
This concludes this entry of the EleAMental podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to houseofel.com to gain access to our show notes, additional podcasts, the photo diary, and more. If you're feeling financially benevolent and would like to support this podcast, go to patreon.com/lnichols, and for as little as $1 per entry, you'll get an ad-free version of this podcast, patron-only monthly live stream Q&As, and Elle's everlasting gratitude. Music was provided by Damn the Witch Siren, featuring the songs Big Mouth and Soft and Blue. All music was used with the artist's permission. If you want to hear more of their incredible music, go to damnthewitchsiren.com. For inquiries, questions, or last letters, email info@lnichols.com or visit the contact page at houseofel.com. The EleAMental podcast is a subsidiary of House of El. Copyright 2019, all rights reserved.